Good afternoon, this is David T at Field Sports Scotland, and I'm coming to you with another episode of FSS Chatback. And today we're going to be talking about deer management and some of the tools that we use in deer management, and the good points and the bad points of some of them. We'll be talking about trail cameras, fencing, we'll talk about how to do a deer count, various aspects of deer counting and stuff like that, and the pitfalls where it comes from doing such things. First of all, I'm going to talk about the news for this week. News for this week, what I've been up to this week. So, as some of you might have seen on my YouTube channel, I have been out doing Sika deer management. Still seeing a lot of females, managed to take a couple of spikers, which is great. So we are pretty much getting back into the swing of things, and some of the males are starting to show face now, which is great. The other thing I've been doing is I've been trying to do maintenance on my equipment. And maintenance is a big part when you're out and about every single day. It's really, really difficult to keep on top of it. And so I've been trying to do some of that as well. I also have finished my Arkin Optics 3-12 Zulus review. I will publish that very soon. I've just got a bit of editing to do and stuff like that. I know it's taken a while for this to happen, but it's genuinely because there is a few pitfalls that I have seen with the 3-12 that I didn't experience with the Arkin Zulus 5-20, which is kind of a big deal. One of them being the IR. So I'm trying to look through the benefits over the LED IR, over the laser IR, that sort of stuff. So kind of just working on that. Really, that is kind of what I've been trying to just get to grips with, is to do with the IR, see what the benefits of the LED IR compared to Arkin's other types of IR. All in all, it's still a very good scope though. I would still purchase one. It's got fantastic clarity. The rangefinder works. All sorts of stuff work on it. So it's great. It is a great piece of kit for the money, especially considering we're talking well below the £1,000 mark for this scope. And not many other scopes can compete with it, regards to weight and everything about it. What else have I been up to? I have really just been trying to get on with stuff and keeping out of people's way. The big thing with Donald Trump assassination last week is assassination attempt, not assassination. Please don't quote me and say that I think he got assassinated, because he didn't get assassinated. It was completely shocking. And although I'm not going to make this show about that, I have to be aware that some restrictions in regards to firearms and things like that will be shown start to appear on YouTube. YouTube also has some new rules on what they deem is suitable for certain audiences and stuff like that. So again, I got to be careful in that. So if you're starting to see less and less of me culling animals, maybe just the run up to it and the aftermath, but not the actual cull, it's probably because YouTube have decided to really kind of be and I don't make any money off of YouTube, so it's not a big deal, but it does affect how the audience picks up my stuff on YouTube. So if you see a bit less than that in the future, it's probably because of YouTube algorithms. But I will try and keep up with the day-to-day videos that I put up and stuff like that. I know some folks really like them. The other thing about it is that I will be doing a lot more maintenance techniques. Now, I'm not the best. I'm not going to be one of these guys that's going to sit here and tells you this is what you should do, this is what you shouldn't do, this is the product you should use, this is the product you shouldn't do, because half the time I really don't have a clue. Most of my stuff I use clean, use clean, use clean, and I don't have any kind of regime for doing it. I don't have any specifics. I use what I've got available at the time. So just to bear that in mind. Anyway, down to what the topic of the day is, because I've spent about 5 minutes just jabbering on about nothing. First of all, trail cameras. Trail cameras are an excellent tool Fantastic tool. I've got one behind me here, a Browning one behind me that I use on the estate. It's fantastic to put up in areas of like an estate or wherever where you're not always able to look at that ground on a regular basis, or where you think there's activity on periods where you're not going to be there. So it allows you to take your focus off that area a little bit, put up a trail camera, come back in a week or so and see what kind of footage you've got from it. Ideal for that. It's great for if you've got a particular problem, for instance, if you've got you want to see what's coming and going from a certain hole in the fence, or if you want to put it up on your chicken runs to see who's wandering about your chickens at night, whether it's a fox, badger, pine marten, or whatever. It gives you a kind of idea on how you're going to manage whatever you view on that footage. It's great for putting up in front of fox dens or badger sets, and I'm not going to advocate putting one up close to a badger set, because in many cases that could be illegal. What I am going to say is that it's good for putting it close by, because you'll be able to see how many badgers are coming and going out of that set, for instance, or whether it's a fox that's using that set and using it as a den, or whether it's a badger that's using the set and using it as a set. The big pitfalls that people fall into in regards to camera traps is trying to use them for counting deer or a certain species. It's fine if it's in one singular area, but if you're trying to get an overall picture of a larger area, you will need lots of trail cameras, and you've got no guarantees that the same deer will set off the same trail camera, or the same species of animal will set off the same trail camera, or different trail cameras in that group. So you can't really rely on it for figures, unless, as I said, you are looking over a one tiny specific area, like a badger set or a bird's nest or something like that. So they do have their downsides. They also have this problem where people rely on them a heck of a lot in regards to, what can I say, just getting an idea of the movement or what animals are eating and stuff like that. Again, you can't use them for that, because it's okay, it is real time when the camera footage is taken, but it's just a snapshot. You really haven't got an idea fully on what that animal is doing other than passing the camera. Yes, you'll get some really cool photos of badgers scratching, or you'll get some animals that you might not see before. You might catch an otter or something like that, and that's all great. That is the idea of the camera trap. But to use it for actual as a specific tool, you need to use it for the specific job it's intended to do, not to try and make it be the be all and end all. So there's various cameras out there. There's hundreds of different ones. Over the years, I have bought really cheap ones, 30, 40 pounds off Amazon or eBay or something like that. And I have made do, because that's all I need them for. Is just, I don't need special footage. I don't need clarity or anything like that. I need something that can see at night, pick up whatever's going about at night, and see during the day and pick up what's going about during the day. And I've got various footage of some of those cheaper cameras. But like every technology, cameras have come a long way in regards to sensors and exposures and how they work at night and how they work at day. You can even get thermal trail cameras now, and all sorts of things that are going on, So it is, you play to your budget. If it's just a simple, I want to see if a fox is turning up at my chickens, buy a cheap one. Buy a cheap one. The only thing I'm going to say to you, and this is my own personal preference, I prefer to get a no-glow trail camera. You'll often find people that will go, oh, why did the deer react to that when it must have saw the trail camera? Yes, it did. Because what happens is the IR on the trail camera, especially at night, might flash up completely red. And that will startle the deer or the animal. And a lot of times they will behave really weirdly to that camera turning on. So for the best idea of footage, and plus bear in mind deer and stuff like that will get to know that camera's there, and if they don't like it, they will avoid it. You'll often find some of these cheaper cameras will make clicking noises as well. This really affects the animal as well that is passing by. I've seen foxes turn around and look straight at the camera. I've seen deer come straight up to a camera and go, "Oh, I wonder what that is." And the reason why they're doing it is because there's a red glowing light flashing at them straight away. So a no-glow, proper invisible IR camera is ideal for most situations, because then it is completely invisible and the deer don't know it's there. They might still give a click or whatever, but that doesn't really, going along with a red glow, it attracts their attention more than just a tiny little click that could be a branch. So trail cameras come in all forms. SpyPoint have brought out these trigger cameras. Basically, they have sensors. They've also got remote sensors. So they'll pick up something, and then that will start the recording on the camera in anticipation that something is going to pass it, so that you're not missing that vital shot. The technology is growing very fast when it comes to it. What I would, instead of using trail cameras to rely on counting, for instance, deer, I tend to do more physical counting. I will be on the ground, walking about, checking dung piles. Again, dung piles are not conclusive, because if you're dealing with certain species of deer, you won't really know much other than kinda how many deer are taking a path. That it's only giving you a snapshot of the actual full picture. The dung piles can be very deceiving. You can get some older dung piles that are mixed in with newer dung piles, and before you know it, you know there's deer there, but not necessarily how many. It could be a couple passing through. It could be a herd passing through. And you might never see them again. It could be the same 2 or 3 deer that are taking the same path every night, but they're just topping up that dung pile every night. So again, just a snapshot. I tend to walk about counting the thermal. Thermal images are a game changer. You can do a lot of your counting from a long distance. You get to see animals that you never normally get to see. You'll see them in locations that you never get to see. So I use that as a tool, and I put time on the ground. I do it at various points as well. I don't just do it just a big one sweep. I'll do half of the estate one night, and then I'll do the other half another night, and then I'll do a full sweep of the estate another night, and then just take an average from there on my counts. Nothing beats time on the ground. However, there is a new thing that has been used, and we've used it on the estate this year, is that we hired somebody to come in with a really expensive thermal drone, and they come and do a sweeping count of that few hours that they're contracted to. Again, it gives you all of these things, give you small pictures of what is happening in that moment that will give you a larger conclusion of what is really happening over a longer period of time. You kind of have to use all these tools at the exact same time to get an idea of the bigger picture. Because then when you finally do a drone footage or whatever, and they count, say, 60 or 70 deer or whatever, you're not surprised because you've used all your other bits and then maybe got 40 or 50 deer. Oh, another 10, that makes sense. You can never catch them all. You never get them all by sight. Oh, I maybe got an idea I had 20 with the dung piles. Well, there you've got a lot more than 20. They're just not using that specific area because you're not finding any more dung piles. Maybe individuals here, individuals there. And they could be the same deer or different deer. So, and the trail cameras, you've got an idea of some of the movement of areas where deer are kind of coming and going. But again, you don't know if it's the same deer that's coming going over and over again, putting off the trail cameras maybe 2 or 3 times a day. So using all your tools every single tool that you've got will give you a final conclusion. And that's the most important thing you've got to think about when you're kind of doing deer management. Now, here's my biggest thing when it comes to deer management. You have a lot of emphasis made on fences. Now, fences do have a purpose. They've got a big purpose. They do stop the flow of traffic into certain areas. They don't necessarily stop all deer from getting into that area. Usually, they stop deer from coming out of that area. Now, Forestry and Land Scotland have come out recently and said they will not be doing any more renewals or putting in more fencing in certain areas. And I can totally understand that, because fences in colder periods and more worrying periods for the deer, for instance, become false shelters. We'll often find when you're doing fence line walks in the spring or whatever, lots of dead calves and lots of dead deer along fence lines. That is because they're dying of exposure, thinking that these fences are going to protect them from the weather when they don't actually do that. Or worse, they get hung up on the fences because they try and jump into the woodland areas for more shelter. The other problem with the deer fence, as I said before, they don't necessarily stop deer from getting into the wood or an area of protection. What they do is stop animals from coming out of the wood, because they would prefer to stay in the wood all the time. They only want to come out of the wood when there's heavy feeding available. But they'll not force the issue by jumping a fence to do it if they don't have to. If they're still feeding in the wood, they'll still eat in the wood. They'll just get used to being in there. And that is where the challenge comes. Don't have the free flow movement of deer. What happens is the deer are not able to come and go as they please. So they will basically become territorial in one area, and that's where they'll have the biggest devastating effect to your crop, whether it's trees or whether it's plants or whether it's arable ground or whatever. If you think fences are going to be your be all and end all, you're going to be very, very surprised, because you will get even 2 or 3 in the most tightest fences, and they'll get in there, and over a period of time, they'll do significant damage. And this is one of the reasons why we have to cull. Along with fencing, you need culling, because you need to cull inside the fence just to try and reduce the numbers what's inside the fence, and then hope that no more are going to come in, but they still do. Where if you have no fence around a woodland block and you put high pressure culling into that woodland block, or just high pressure in general, then you will find that you will not have, you'll create a fear area, if you put high pressure in that one area with no fences, you will create a fear area in that location, and that will deter the deer from coming in the future. So there is lots of kind of ideas on how to use no fences to your advantage and just increase time on the ground, increase people's time on the ground. Because if you're scaring and culling in that area, you will definitely make sure that the deer will not want to frequent in that area, because it will be a danger to them. So it's just some of the tools that you have to use. It's important to use all these different strategies when you're in doing deer management or any kind of wildlife management, because creating corridors, creating areas of feeding, creating easy access areas and cull areas, paths and stuff like that is all part of the infrastructure needed in good deer management. And along with the tools, like we were talking about trail cameras, the usage of trail cameras in areas that you cannot see all the time, usages of doing regular counts, maybe 3 times a year minimum, or 2 times a year minimum, summer and a winter count. These all work together for a better deer management plan. Now, if you're looking for numbers and stuff like that, and you want to increase numbers in your area, then them fences are a big part of that. You can easily fence, providing you're providing the right food in that area. You can fence off your whole estate, and that will deter animals from leaving the estate, as long as they're happy and they feel safe within the estate, and they've got larger feeding areas. It's almost like having a giant release pen, if you know what I mean. You use this area as a big safe area for them, and you fence it all off, and they stay in there. Now, in Scotland, that is not going to be the done thing in the future. And that is one of the kind of things we have to think about. Because estates will no longer be able to control the amount of deer or the large amounts of deer that are on their property for the sake of numbers, for the sake of having commercial shooting. The aim will be to bring all deer numbers down, and that will be detriment to those who are looking for trophies and stuff like that. So we really got to think about how the individual deer management practices work for your specific deer management ideas and ideals. If you're controlling numbers to a low level, then time on the ground is the most important part. You spend a lot more time culling, a lot more time monitoring, and a lot more time just being able to know what deer you have, so you know how many that you need to bring down in numbers. On the other side of things, if you want larger numbers of deer on your property, then you think about managing that property as with. You provide feeding, you provide all the things that will attract a deer to your ground. You provide a safe haven for them. Well, even if it's a small area on the estate, you provide that safe haven. You possibly might want to fence your estate in and kind of trap your deer on your estate. It's kind of, to me, that's a little bit unethical, because wild deer are not owned by anybody. Well, they're only owned after they're culled, and that's to the person who owns that land. But they are the responsibility of every landowner. So if you've got deer on your ground, they are your responsibility. So the legal side of things is very unclear at the moment on how we go forward for that kind of, management plans and management styles. And maybe there should be a universal management style for everybody. So everybody has the same expectations and know what the same expectations have of them. But again, use the tools to your facilities, and there's nothing better than your own feet, your own eyes, and whatever you can see when you're out there. I don't even know what the word is. It's fascinating. That's the word I'm looking for. Oh my God, I'm just having mind blanks. I think I'm going senile. But I'm not going senile. Just to add that, because obviously that would have wider implications. I'm not going senile. But it's a fascinating thing, deer management, because there's many different practices in it, and you can use some to your own benefit and others that will be detriment to, depending on what your management plan is. So you kind of have to just go with the flow a little bit. Everybody has their ideals, everybody has their own ideas, and everybody has their own management plans depending on what they want to get out and what outcome that they want for their estate. Some estates have even complicated this further. They want to run a commercial shoot, but they also want to do some rewilding. So they're having to protect areas, make fear areas in one place and safe havens in the other place. And then they want to still provide commercial stalking and taking guests out and stuff like that. And that's where it becomes a little bit complicated, because you kind of have to have both trains of thought. You have to be able to do heavy culls in one area and make sure that you've got no deer going in that area, but also keep a good stock of deer for your guests and stuff in another area. And it becomes very confusing and very complicated for the managers on the ground. Sometimes, in that case, it's better to have two people running one side of it and the other person running the other side of it, and then speaking together, or bringing a contractor in for your cull areas. But that's up to the individual estates to decide. Having one stalker on an estate, for instance, covering 20,000 acres and having to heavy cull in one area, but expecting that stalker to do a heap of other things on another area, that becomes very difficult in time management for the stalker. He will focus one over the other, and it's human nature. He can't do both. He can't spread yourself that thin. If you're going to be doing large culls in one area, you need to spend a lot of your time doing large culls in that area. Anyway, I hope this has been a little bit informative for you and that you've got something out of it. Any questions, fire them over on Facebook. I don't know what I've got planned for next week. Hopefully I'm starting to get my voice back and starting to feel a little bit better. And we could probably run through some fox calls or something on the fox caller to give you an idea of sounds and stuff that we use when we're out foxing. But if I've got any more deer videos and that coming towards, I'll put them up. Just keep an eye on my YouTube. I will have more footage coming in, and I've got the review for the 3 to 12 Zulus, and I will do a full video review on that as well. Thank you for watching. Happy hunting. Stay safe, and I'll catch you next week.